Welcome to the Mango Effect podcast, where every week we explore a range of ideas and inspiration that all culminate in designing the lifestyle that we've always dreamed of. No topics are off limits. We get into the practical, the hypothetical, and the downright juicy stuff. I'm Mindy Rosser, your host and lifestyle cheerleader, and I'm here today to talk about why I turned my living room into a home gym. So first of all, why the heck do we have a living room? This is something, can you tell I'm very animated about this? Can someone please explain to me why we feel the need to get overpriced furniture to put in a room we rarely use and mount some massive electronic contraption from the 2000s I think it's called a TV, on the wall? Plus we throw in some fake trees or plants, maybe some drapes, a bunch of whirligigs that collect dust as if it was going out of style. And is anyone else seeing the irony in investing anywhere from, if you're in the U.S., $5,000 to $10,000 plus to create a room that we barely use? This has always boggled my mind. When I was looking at the living rooms, I'm like, when I have a living room someday, I want it to actually be functional. I want to actually do something inside of the living room besides sit on a couch and talk. Now, if you don't know me very well, I hate sitting. I hate chairs. I despise furniture. I don't wear shoes. I like being barefoot and sitting on the ground or sitting in a sumo squat or on an exercise ball or standing. I just cannot sit. So the living rooms to me felt so silly. And this is completely retarded. Why am I going to a furniture store looking at furniture I don't care about? I really don't care about design because society tells me to. So yes, I am being facetious. If you love your living room, maybe you want to just not listen to this episode because I'm going to rant on living rooms and what you can do instead. But I'm being a bit facetious here. I know that. But according to Wikipedia, I was curious. So I did my quick little Google search before making this episode. And Wikipedia says the term living room is found initially in some decorating literature of the 1890s. That was a heck of a long time ago, guys, where a living room was supposed to be a reflection of the personality of the designer rather than the Victorian conventions of the day. And for them, this was progress. This was progress in the right direction. People were tired of the Victorian conventions and they wanted something different. So now we're bringing in the personality of the designer. Does this have anything to do with the actual humans living in it? No. So along came this guy named Edward Bok, and he changed the terminology in the Ladies' Home Journal. And his intention was that the living room should be lived in. Well, what constituted living back then and what we consider living right now are very different. So when I'm thinking of the historical context, sometimes I like digging into a little bit of history, especially when it's related to a topic I'm interested in. We learn something. So a living room, we are supposed to live in it, but what that living looks like can be different for every single individual. And so when we try to tell, or society tries to tell us that we should do it like this, and they present these beautiful images on Pinterest or HGTV and say, your living room should look like this. Here are some great ideas to make your living room pop or inspire your guests or have more house parties. In my mind, I'm like, but that's not what I want to do. I don't consider that living. I don't want to stare at a fake fireplace. That's not interesting to me. That space could be used for something else. So I think when we extract ourselves from the matrix of what design and what our homes are very sacred. They are a special place. They're a place where we as humans get to relax, where we can do whatever the heck we want. So even if we're working or driving or commuting or experiencing other places, when we come to our home, this is where we have autonomy. This is where we should have autonomy. And yet we are still letting people tell us what we should do in every single room of our home, how it should flow, what the colors should be, the ambiance that we should be creating, how to be a good host. So my challenge to you today and what we're talking about is really, do I expect you to create a home gym in your living room? I think that would be really cool, and I would love to see a picture if you do. But I think really what I'm trying to get across is that your living room, your home, your spaces should really reflect your values. Think about that for a moment. When you look around, if you're sitting in your home right now, if you're doing dishes, if you're folding laundry, that's when I tend to like to listen to podcasts, or exercising. If you're looking around at your space, if you're not there right now, just kind of imagine it. What do you see? What do you look at on the walls? the stuff that is hanging up, the drapes, the windows, does it feel like it actually matches your values? Or does it feel like, well, yeah, it's pretty, but I feel like I'm living in a museum? Or, it's really messy right now because I have a bunch of kids kind of running and screaming around the house. So yeah, it doesn't really match my values of cleanliness. Okay, I get that. I have kids too. But think about it. Does your home reflect you and what you value in life? So this kind of goes back to how I, as a child, as a teenager, as a young person, grew up, and I really hated home decorating. As a teenager, I liked decorating for holidays, but then as I turned into a grown-up, I'm like, this is kind of ridiculous. Why am I putting up lights for a holiday that is only, speaking of Christmas, that is only, 4 weeks, maybe, give or take, that we're actually kind of celebrating this thing. Then I got to take them down, and then I got to organize them, and I just started accumulating all this junk, and they were trappings that just didn't match me. Like, I'm not a big holidays person. I'll probably do another podcast about that and what I do instead. But to me, it didn't match my values. And so that really came into home decorating. When I met my partner, Jason, when we got together, there was always this thing around home decorating. Every single place we moved to, he's like, you never put a picture on the wall. And I felt this guilt, like, well, I don't feel like I need to put a picture on the wall. Like, it's fine just as it is. I like it sparse. I like a minimalist. I like not having to dust things. And so instead of like bristling every time he said that, I had this shift in my mind, and I thought, you know what? Why do I feel so guilty that I never feel this urge to decorate? The only times I have felt the urge to decorate are when I've been pregnant with my 2 children. And for some reason, he's like, okay, something is off. He's like, why are you putting pictures on the wall? Why are you moving furniture? Why are you doing this decorating thing? So that's the only time that I've ever really felt the urge to decorate. And so I started digging deeper, and I feel like home should really be a celebration of what matters to me, what matters to our family, what is the ambiance we are trying to create. And one thing that helped me think about this, a framework that I use, and I've talked about it on the podcast before, but it's called Lifebook. So John and Missy Butcher, I will put the link in the show notes if you're curious. But Lifebook, there is a category. So there are 12 categories in the Lifebook system, different categories of life. And one of them, category number 11, if you're a Lifebook nerd, is quality of life. And when we got to that category, I thought it was going to be much more about, materialistic, getting all the things, all the trappings that I've ever wanted, what's been on my wish list, but it's really not. Quality of life is unique to every single individual, and it is not expressed so much as material things as it is the quality of your life and being surrounded by the things that matter to you, being surrounded by the experiences that matter to you, engaging in those things. So quality of life is much more than the stuff that we accumulate. And they also talked about, John Butcher talked about this concept of how your home should really be a reflection of what you love and what you value. And in that moment, I had an epiphany. I was like, okay, so what do I want my home to feel like? When people come to my home, do I want them to look at my home and say, wow, this is really pretty? Or do I want them to say, oh, this is so clean. How do you keep your house so clean? Or do I want them to say, wow, like your decorations and the themes of your home and the colors, they just go so well together. None of that matters to me. I could care less. Like, I don't care if you like the paint on my walls or what I have on my pictures. I don't care. What matters to me, though, I realized in digging deeper, is fun. I want my house to feel fun. And what is fun to me? Fun is exercise. I am like a total exercise, health, wellness nerd. If you looked at me right now, I'm wearing my exercise shorts and I've got my Apple Watch on one hand, my Whoop strap on another. It's like, yes, I'm a total fitness health nerd. And so what is fun for me is being surrounded by exercise equipment. As odd as that may sound to many of you who are like, Mindy, I hate exercise. But I love it. So I like yoga mats. I like rubber flooring. I like the smell of the gym. I like stacks of weights. I also, since we moved to Hawaii, I love surfing. So I love my boards. And some people will store their boards in, a certain shed or outside. I like the boards in the house. I have the boards next to me. I'm staring at a board right now as I'm recording this podcast. I have boards throughout the entire house. So our living room is like a board rack and where the TV would be. And there are boards everywhere. And that makes me happy. And that's the vibe that I want to communicate. That is how I want our family to feel as well. We have 2 kids that are still at home. One is grown and she's on her own. So the 2 that are at home, it's what were the values that we're passing on to them are, okay, I think your parents value exercise. Your entire living room is a gym. And so I think it's not subtle. I would say it's not a subtle communication of what our values are. It's also giving them the opportunity to explore and figure out what their values are. So when they look at our living room, do we expect our kids to be fitness fanatics like we are? No. If they like it, great. If not, that's fine too. This is what mommy and daddy do. They value these things, so they make their entire living room in alignment with these things. So we were actually going through, so our living room still has a couch. Can you believe it? We have a couch in our living room. The rest of the room is a gym. So yesterday, as I'm recording this, I said, you know what? Sometimes I get into these moods where I just want to clean everything. So this was one of those moods. I woke up, I said, I do not want to look at my screen. I am going to clean today. I'm going to put in some super fun podcasts. So podcasts for me that I love listening to, health and wellness and nutrition, performance. Those are super fun. I don't listen to business stuff for the most part. I like it fun when I'm listening to podcasts, especially when I want to clean. So I kind of match my listening to my cleaning. So I start cleaning the house. I get through our bathroom. I start dusting everything. And then I'm like, you know what really needs to be done? The living room. The living room just never is clean enough. We are in Hawaii, so we only have a living room. We don't have like a typical den, an extra bedroom, and office space. Everything in Hawaii is very tight, so tight quarters. So you have to, and like our house is, I think, 1,200 square feet total. And that is considered massive. Like we have a big house with a big yard here. And people come to our house like, wow, your house is so big. And on the mainland, that would be considered, it's pretty modest, a very modest sized house. So we have, the biggest space is our living room. And I don't tend to clean that one as often. I try to outsource it to my partner, Jason. He just doesn't clean like me. So I said, okay, we are doing it today. We are going to move that couch. We are going to clean under that couch. We haven't moved it since we set up the gym, and let's figure out what to do with this room. So we did. We moved the couch, and I said, you know what? I want to get rid of this couch. I said, it doesn't match. It just doesn't match. And Jason's like, I've been telling you this for months. I want to put rubber flooring there. So we want to get rid of the couch and put rubber flooring in that space and open it up, because right now it is kind of small. So if 2 of us want to work out at the same time, it feels very crowded, like we're stepping on each other. So we made the decision. So here we go. We are officially going furniture free in our living room, and you are the first to know, my wonderful podcast listeners. So we are getting rid of the couch. So if you know anyone, if you're listening to this as it's released, we still have the couch. We're trying to get rid of the couch. We're getting rubber flooring tomorrow, which is the day that this podcast releases. And I cannot wait to get rid of the couch. So we're trying to liquidate it right now. And I feel the sense of after making that decision, like, okay, we're getting rid of this couch once and for all, I felt this sense of relief. I said, why? Why did it take me 10 years being together with Jason? Why did it take us 10 years to figure out that we hate sitting? Like, we cannot stand sitting on a couch. We never use the couch. It sits there, and if Jason wakes up in the middle of the night and like eats a snack and falls asleep on the couch, then that's about all it gets used for. So I think there's this sense of alignment and saying, okay, we are committing to this space being furniture free and being filled with the things that we love, the things that we care about, the things that matter to us. And we had a conversation with our children, and they were kind of on the fence about it. Like, Mom, we need the couch. And I said, no, you don't need the couch. You got a chair in your room. You got a bed. You can play on your devices in there. So I think it's really communicating that to ourselves and getting honest with ourselves. Like, what do we want the biggest space, typically for many of us, in our home to reflect? What should be there? What matters to us? What would make us happy? And why do we have to take society's version of what a living room should be and assume that it should be the same in our own home. So I want to challenge you today. Look at your living room. Look at your living room. Do the things, if we're going all Marie Kondo on this, do the things in your living room actually make you happy? Do they bring you joy? If they do not, why not change it? There's somebody that would love to have your furniture. You can get rid of your furniture if you want. You can put in other furniture if you want. You can make it into whatever space you want. And for me, I've actually been exploring, you heard me talk about changing my sleep, if you listen to the sleep episode on sleep chronotypes, that I'm actually changing my schedule to be much more of a night person. So I find myself using the living room much more frequently because my husband goes to bed earlier and I go out in the living room and that is my creative space. So I noticed I was looking for a space to write and I love writing. So long form writing, I'm getting back into it after 10 years. Yay. And I realized, like sitting on the couch, I'm like, this is so not motivating. This is not how I like to write. I don't like to sit in that way. Give me something else exercise related. So that also kind of precipitated the getting rid of the couch stuff and that decision. But being in that space, I rearranged it. I put the piano in a prominent place. Now the kids are coming in and I love playing the piano. It's kind of a creative expression thing for me. I don't perform. I used to write music. Back in the day, I used to sing and stuff, but I don't really do that anymore. It's more about that creative expression. And so setting up this entire room in a way that felt in alignment with all the things I love, all the things I value. So if you came into my living room, I will post a picture on Instagram. So if you're watching this, go to my Instagram. It's at Mango Effect Podcast. And I will post a picture of our living room so you can kind of see what it looks like. I will post it with the couch because the couch is still there. And you can see all the different things that I value. So think for a moment when you are in somebody's home and you see all of the different things in their house. It's like all of those items, if the person is living in alignment, those items represent things that matter to them. We can learn a lot about somebody just by the things that they surround themselves with. We can learn a lot about ourselves by the things that we surround ourselves with. So I'm going to describe it for those of you who don't look at the picture. So we have a squat rack. Yes, a legitimate squat rack, like Rogue, heavy duty squat rack with all kinds of bands and bars. We have stacks of weights. We have a bunch of dumbbells up to 70 pounds, I think. Jason still wants 90s and 100s, but I think they're kind of overkill. We've got bars, so lifting bars. We also have a bench. We have balls. Then if you kind of go around, we still have the couch that needs to get moved, and we're going to replace that with some rubber flooring, so that will expand the entire space. We have a lot of windows, which is really, really nice because it opens up and we get nice winds through the house. There's some really neat windows and kind of slats in the windows that bring in that nice breeze. So when there's no couch there, it's going to feel so much more open. And then we also have a piano in there. So I like to play the piano. And then we have a sauna. So the sauna is kind of tucked away in the corner. And I love using the sauna at nighttime because it just calms me down. As you can tell, I'm a very hyper type. So I am usually like bursting with energy. So at nighttime, it's really important for me to get under that red light. It's an infrared sauna and just kind of chill, watch a documentary, read a book, something like that. And then where the TV would be to the right of the door, it is all surfboards. I think we have probably close to 10, 12, thereabouts, surfboards kind of distributed through the house. Plus we have our skateboards over there. We have all our rumble rollers and we have an Indo board. And so our entire living room is play. It is exercise. It is fitness. We sweat in there. We play in there. The kids join us for workouts. And that is like a celebration of our lifestyle. And I love that about our living room. I feel like after 10 plus years, we finally have a living room that is in full alignment with our values and sharing that with our children and helping them understand what is possible for them. Like, you don't have to do what everyone else does. They'll come home and be like, Mom, they've got a TV and like a rocking chair and like a really comfy couch. I'm like, well, that's not what we value. That's cool. That's great. I'm glad they enjoy that. And if they use it, fantastic. We just don't do that here. Everyone has their devices if they want to watch something. And then this is the exercise room. And that's what we do. So I think coming back to the theme of alignment, looking at your space, even if you don't want to completely revamp your living room, You don't want to turn it into a gym like we did. What is one thing that you could do to bring your space into more alignment? What is one thing that may be tucked away in a closet that actually makes you super happy? That if you brought it out into plain view and surrounded yourself with that, it would put a smile on your face. There are such simple things that we can do in our own spaces, and sometimes we forget, or we just take on what other people tell us to do without even thinking or questioning it. I think for me, the key is always questioning. When somebody tells me to do something, I say, but why? I'm that questioning type. But why? Why should I do that? How does that make sense? Does that make sense for me? Maybe that's great for you, but I don't know about myself. And I think asking those questions and being okay with what the answers are, and being okay that your way of doing it may be different than somebody else's. That's all right. Embrace that. Embrace that individuality. We are all about creating our own lifestyles by design here. And that's by our own design. That's not by somebody else's design. That's not by somebody's book that has written the book on lifestyle design. It is by your design. What makes you tick? What makes you happy? What can inspire you and motivate you to live in alignment with what you value? So break free from the furniture matrix. I wrote that down as one of my notes. So I think it's a mindset shift. When it comes to our homes, when it comes to our spaces, you can create whatever you want. Don't be afraid to be different. And it's super fun because when people come over to our house, they know it now. But when people first come to our house, the first thing they say is like, oh my God, this is like a legitimate gym in your living room. And it's so fun. I like the shock factor. I don't know about you. I love the shock factor. I love shocking people in that way, especially when they come over and one of us is working out, because we work out pretty hard and we do like heavy movements and lifts, and Jason's sweating all over the place. He's like a crazy, amazing exerciser. So it's super fun to just see people's expressions. But then our friends have gotten to know us and they think it's really neat. So they will actually bring their kids over like, hey, the Rossers, they know how to exercise. Maybe you can ask them how to do like a pull-up or a push-up. And it's fun because the kids are like very shy, but they want to know, how do you guys exercise? This is amazing. This is so cool. This is so rad. And I think as our kids get older, they are now 6 and 8. I think it's going to be such a positive place. I want people and their friends to come over and say, yeah, let's lift, guys, or let's, do a workout, and not feel afraid or feel like it's weird. So think about your space. Think about your space. What can you do today that would make your space more happy, more fun, more playful? Think about the vibe that you want your space to have. And maybe you don't have a whole house. Maybe you are living inside someone else's house, but what space do you have control over that you can change? Even if it's just a room, even if it's just a nook, a closet, a little space, it doesn't matter. Whatever space that you have, you can bring out the energy. You can bring out the inspiration. You can bring out that creativity, that personality that you wanted to have. So that's my challenge for you this week. So if you decide to take on the home gym living room challenge, please DM me. I would love to see pictures. Or maybe you just have a space where you do your exercise and you're like, Mindy, check out my space. I would love to see it. So feel free to send it my way. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the Mango Effect podcast wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode. I'd be absolutely thrilled if you could write a 5-star review for the show if you love it. We are a new show, so any reviews and subscribes we get will definitely help us as we grow. Again, reminder to follow us on at Mango Effect Podcast on TikTok and Instagram, and you will see all of the cool home gym photos coming right after this episode, so that should be super fun. Send me your photos to DM me. I love to hear your stories. All right, I will see you on the next episode. Have a beautiful rest of your day.